Welcome to Bigfoot Terror in the Woods, Sightings and Encounters. I'm your host, W.J. Sheehan. Hello everyone, and thank you for taking time out of your busy day to spend a few minutes with me. The following account is named Highway Patrol. It came to me from a retired law enforcement officer who told me that he had faced such ridicule about this encounter that I agreed not to even mention what state he had worked in. Here is John Sorensen's story. I was a 24-year veteran of the force when this encounter happened, and I was on highway patrol that night. Most of the old-timers preferred the night shift because it was typically quieter than the day shift, and on this particular night, the weather was crisp and clear. Now, there were a couple of stop signs that I would generally set up on early in the shift, and then later in the night, I would hit the main highway with the radar gun. I had a spot that I would back into, which was a grassy edge on the highway. The forest was at my back, and a rock wall dominated my left-hand side. By the time a speeder made it around the granite outcropping and saw my squad car, the gun had already bagged their speed. I had already tagged a couple of speeders that night and was preparing for the next. I turned the car off momentarily and stepped into the trees to take care of some business. It was a pitch black and moonless night. Trust me when I tell you, there was no one around in this stretch of highway, just woods and rocky walls. I was finishing up and turning towards the car when I could see headlamps shining around the bend coming towards my position. Remember, nobody could see me here until they had virtually passed in front of me. Just as I had seen the glare of the oncoming headlights, the car's horns started sounding, and they were leaning on it heavily. They flew by and kept going, and I had taken maybe 3 steps towards the car when a large dark mass came into view from around the wall on my left side. Whatever it was came walking along the shoulder of the highway, and it was huge. I immediately knew that this was what the car had honked at. As I was reaching for my flashlight out of my belt loop, I said, "Hey you, stop right where you are," and hit it with the light. When I did so, it had turned towards me and growled, and its eyes were glowing red before the flashlight had even hit them. When the flashlight's beam met its face, it let out the loudest, most intense roar that you could possibly imagine. Its head held high into the air and screaming like King Kong. The mouth was wide open and I could see its teeth. I grabbed my revolver and prepared to fire, but I didn't have time to shoot before it had fled. It took maybe 4 fast steps or leaps for it to clear all 4 lanes of the highway and both shoulders, disappearing into the night. I jumped into the car and started it up, flipping on the headlights, and I saw nothing. So I turned on my spotlight and moved across to the far shoulder. When I did, I caught it briefly looking in my direction, with its red eyes beaming in the darkness. The damn things were like red reflectors on a kid's bike, and it turned and hightailed it out of sight into the woods. In total, there were 4 units on patrol that night, with the dispatcher and sergeant being back at the station. When I got on the radio, I started to tell everyone what I had seen, which I didn't think would be taken as a joke. That's exactly what happened. The chatter coming over the speaker was ridiculous, and the dispatcher told me to fill out a report. The Bigfoot had to have been 7 to 8 feet tall, and when the light hit it, I could see the dark skin on its face, along with some hair that served as a beard, Its teeth were large white squares like big chiclets, and the hair was quite long and matted. Its head and shoulders were like one unit, kind of like the turret on a tank. It was the most frightening thing that you could imagine, and then some. I don't know why I didn't pull the trigger, but when you fire around as a cop, it's a big deal. And firing around at a Bigfoot, well, you could just imagine how well that would go over. As the thing turned to cross the street, I saw that it must have been 5 feet across at the shoulders, and the fur on its butt was totally encrusted with leaves and crap. While it was near me, the stench which was emanating from it was sickening. The next day, I came back to the spot with my truck. I parked on the shoulder and then walked back to where it had come from. I could clearly see heavy impressions in the soft grass of the shoulder, and when I crossed over to the side where it had run from view, I could see even deeper impressions. These prints were large and maybe close to 20 inches long. You can't believe the crap that I had to put up with after that night. And I retired shortly thereafter, having performed 25 years of service. Until next time, remember, always carry more gun than you think you're going to need. Sleep tight.